Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a topic that has been making waves in international politics, the appointment of Congressman Marco Rubio as the United States Secretary of State. We'll explore his controversial stance on China and how his appointment might be perceived by Beijing, and most importantly, what this means for a neutral country like Singapore. Marco Rubio, a seasoned politician and former senator from Florida, has been appointed as the United States Secretary of State under President Donald Trump's administration. This appointment sends a strong message, not just domestically, but globally as well. Rubio has built his reputation as a vocal critic of China, and this new role gives him an immense influence over US foreign policy. From his earlier days in Congress, Rubio has consistently pushed for tougher policies on China, including sanctions on human rights issues, restrictions on Chinese tech companies, and stronger support for Taiwan. His appointment signals a continuation or perhaps an escalation of the US hardline stance on China. Marco Rubio's reputation as an anti-China trailblazer precedes him. Chinese state media have long criticized him, portraying him as an ambitious politician who uses China bashing to bolster his image and political influence. Rubio has openly supported sanctions on Chinese officials over issues like the Uyghur camps in Xinjiang, the crackdown on Hong Kong's autonomy, and China's alleged intellectual property theft. Under his watch, we can expect even greater scrutiny on Chinese investments, trade practices, and geopolitical maneuvers. Some analysts believe that Rubio's tough stance on China aligns closely with Donald Trump's America First rhetoric, making his appointment not just a strategic choice, but also a political one. Beijing will likely view Rubio's appointment as Trump throwing down the gauntlet. The appointment appears less about a nuanced foreign policy and more about Trump solidifying his political base by doubling down on his administration's antagonistic approach towards China. China has repeatedly warned against US officials interfering in its internal affairs, and will likely interpret this appointment as an escalation of existing tensions. For Trump, this decision likely stems from domestic political calculations, appealing to his voter base, rather than any specific or immediate foreign policy strategy. Now, what does all this mean for a neutral country like Singapore? Singapore has always carefully balanced its relationships with both China and the United States. On one hand, China is a significant trade partner and a key player in the region. On the other hand, the US remains a vital ally, especially in terms of security and innovation. Rubio's appointment could complicate this delicate balancing act. With his hardline stance, the US-China rivalry may intensify, potentially placing Singapore in a precarious position. Here are a few possible scenarios. If tensions escalate into a trade war, Singapore's economy, heavily dependent on global trade, could face ripple effects. Disruptions to supply chains or shifts in investment flows could pose challenges. Another possibility is Singapore facing increased pressure to align itself more closely with one side or the other. Historically, Singapore has maintained a neutral stance, but heightened US-China tensions could test this neutrality. Any increased US presence in the South China Sea under Rubio's direction could lead to heightened military tensions. As a very small state, Singapore values stability in the region, which could be undermined by escalating rivalries. The appointment of Marco Rubio as Secretary of State is a clear signal that the US intends to maintain and likely escalate its tough stance on China. For Singapore, this could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, Singapore's reputation for neutrality and diplomacy positions it as a potential mediator in US-China relations. On the other hand, increased US-China tensions could challenge Singapore's ability to maintain this balance, especially if the rivalry impacts regional trade or security. As a small nation, Singapore may have to prioritize pragmatism and flexibility in its foreign policy, building strong bilateral relationships with both superpowers while advocating for multilateral cooperation in ASEAN could help Singapore navigate these turbulent waters. Ultimately, Singapore's role as a bridge between East and West may become even more critical as the world now watches how the US-China rivalry unfolds under Rubio's leadership. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.